Okie doke. The questions we had most trouble with here are numbers 5, 9, and 10. Let's go through number 5 first. When I go from 6 to -1, I'm going up by 5. From -1 to 4 is also up by 5, so delta x is plus 5. The y values go down 1 and down 1, therefore delta y is -1. The m value again is delta y over delta x. The slope is -1/5. And the best way to do that is to turn it into a decimal. So you get -0.2. And that's just for the first part. For the second guy, I put a dot always on the y-axis where the line crosses it. And I go along the diagonal until I find another corner point where the line touches the corner of a grid box. To do this, I went to the right 5 steps. It's the same direction as the x-axis, so delta x is plus 5. I then had to go this way 2 steps, which is delta y, but I went down 2, which is -2. So this m slope is, again, delta y over delta x, which is -2 over 5. If I put that into my calculator, -2 divided by 5, I get -0.4. For the last one, it says 5 times the value of y. 5 times the value of y. I write down 5y. Then the word plus, which is a plus sign. 2 times the value of x, which is 2x, is equal to 5. Now, for this part, the y has to be all by itself. So this has to go over here first by subtracting 2x on both sides. You bring down your 5y equal to, always put the x value first, so -2x goes first. The 5 really has a plus sign in front of it, so you have plus 5. The y is still not technically by itself because I don't want a 5 in front of it. And seeing how it was 5 times y, I did the opposite, which is to divide by 5. So now y is by itself. But all the other pieces must also be divided by 5, so I get -2 and 5 don't divide nicely, so I leave it alone. But 5 divided by 5 is just 1. There's my equation. If I want to find the slope, when y is all by itself, it's the number in front of the x, which is -2/5. And now if I write that as a decimal again, it's -0.4. So, which function has the rate of change with the greatest numerical value? It'd be choice 1, because -0.2 is slightly bigger than -0.4. Do any pair of functions have the same rate of change? Well, yeah. Function 2 and 3 are both -0.4. Now that's how we do number 5. Then we had a question on numbers 9 and 10. Okay. 9's a little tricky, but we can still do it. If I go here, that's plus 4. But here is plus 8. So there's 2 different delta x's. So we're going to have to do a little extra work. Y goes down 1, and this goes down 2. Each of these things are delta y. Each of these things are delta x. Now, when they're all the same, it's a very quick procedure. But if they're different, like 1 and 2 are different, 4 and 8 are different, you have to divide each delta y by its delta x, and so you can keep getting the same number. -1 divided by 4 is one of them. -2 divided by 8 is the other one. When I do that, I get -0.25 on my calculator each time, so that's my rate of change or my slope. Here, I have to get y by itself, so how do you get -20 to the other side? You add the 20x. 10y comes down, plus 20x goes first, plus 5 goes second. Then divide each piece by the 10 to get the 10 out from in front of the y. Y is equal to 2x plus 1/2. The slope is 2 whole. Now this one here could be a little bit trickier because you should put a dot on the y-axis where the line crosses it. And then you have to find another point on this line where it touches the corner of grid paper. Well, it touches here, or here, or here. It's a lot of points. How far am I going in the x direction? I can go 1 step, or 2 steps, or 3 steps, or 4 steps. So my delta x changes. But how far do I go up and down from this point to that point? 0 steps. How far from this point if I chose to go to this point? 0 steps. So my delta y is actually always 0. Now if I put 1 on the bottom, or 2, or 3, or 4, or 5, or whatever, 0 divided by anything, the slope is 0. Now which function is decreasing is what they actually ask you here. Decreasing means you have what kind of slope? Negative. Function 1 is decreasing because it has a negative slope of 0.25. And the last one was 10. So you had that happening. Okay, I'll do it real quick. Negative 10 to negative 5 is going up by 5. This is going up by 10. Different numbers. I have to do extra work I did up there in the last problem. Negative 16 to negative 12 is going up by 4. Negative 12 to negative 4 is going up by 8. So I have 4 over 5. And I have 8 over 10. If I go to my calculator, 4 divided by 5 is 0.8. 8 divided by 10 is also 0.8. They're the same. So this guy's slope is 0.8. Here, I have to get y by itself, so I move the x over and get 6y equals negative 3x when you subtract 3x on both sides. It's the worst handwriting ever. Okay. Plus the 12. And it's plus because there's a plus sign in front of there, even though you don't see it. Then divide everything by the 6 to get rid of it in front of the y. 12 divided by 6 is actually 2, which is nice. Now I can reduce this to negative 1/2 because it does reduce, but I don't need to. Because if I type in negative 3 divided by 6, I'll get my slope to be negative 0.5. Reading this, 8 times the value of y. 8 times the value of y. The word plus. 10 times the value of x is equal to 15. And we have a problem just like the last piece. I need to get y by itself. So get rid of 10x and put it to the other side by subtracting 10x. 8y is equal to negative 10x. The x guy goes first again. The 15 really has a plus sign in front of it, so we put plus 15. Divide everything by 8. And it's a little bit messy, so I'm just going to leave it as negative 10/8 x plus 15/8. We don't have to worry about that at all. That's my slope. And when you take that out, you divide it by negative 1.25. So, if you have to sit here and say which one's increasing, well, the increasing one will be this guy because it's a positive slope. If they ask you which slope is biggest, you would take 0.80 and negative 0.50 and negative 1.25. And the reason why I did that, this has 2 decimal places. These didn't. You have to have an equal number of decimal places, 2, 2, and 2 to compare decimals. It's easier that way. Then once you do that, you can just treat them as whole numbers. 80, negative 50, and 125. Which one's the biggest? 125 would be.